Hi, this is Frank Darabont. Welcome to the Shawshank Redemption. We shot this movie in 1993 in the summer of, and the movie was released in September of 94. And here's a good place to get right into it. This is Malabar Farms in Ohio. I know that Steve King's story takes place, and indeed the story of the movie takes place in Maine. However, because Ohio had this giant empty prison, we located our production in Mansfield, which is where the prison is, the Ohio State Reformatory. And our production was centered there and around that area as well, other locations around Mansfield. Here comes one of 3 insert shots, this one right here, that I had done after the filming. These are my hands. I find it easier to just do my own hand work in an insert like this rather than trying to explain somebody else. Funny enough, when I was crewing, I would often be pressed into service to do hand inserts like this, just because I was pretty comfortable in front of the camera. Now that I shifted into directing, I carried that skill with me. That shot was one of 3 inserts, as I said, that we had done after the filming. I'm rather proud of that we only had 3 little tiny insert shots to do. We had gotten everything we really needed during principal photography, except those 3 inserts. Here is a wonderful courtroom in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. As I said, we were pretty much centered in that area, with everything being a fairly close drive to where we were in Mansfield. Shifting into a technical aspect here for just a moment, the difference between script and what you wind up with on screen. There's some practical issues that often will intrude upon this process and make their own demands. This opening credit sequence with the courtroom and the night of the alleged murder, Andy and the 2 lovers, this was not written in the fashion that you're seeing it. It was written as 2 separate and consecutive blocks of narrative. In other words, it was a whole sequence with Andy and the lovers, the night of the alleged murder, and then the script segued to the entire courtroom sequence. It was supposed to play first one, then the other. Now, here's why it wound up being the way you were seeing it. We had, of course, scheduled only one night of shooting at the Malabar Farms in Ohio, which was only one night to get all the stuff with Andy in the car, all the stuff with the lovers in the cabin. And I knew even 2 hours, that was, I think, our first night of shooting. I knew even 2 hours into it, I was screwed. There was no way I was going to be able to shoot everything that was scripted. I should have had 2 nights to, in fact, do that. I did what I think any smart director should do. When in doubt, shoot the movie star. If you have to pick up something later, it's going to be easier not to have to pick that person up. So, pick up the key bit of action. So I concentrated on getting Tim Robbins' footage shot that night, then got whatever of the lovers I was able to do. I had a more sort of elaborate, sort of sexy body heat sequence scripted in there. And basically I was able to get really just a few shots with them. So cut to many months later as I'm sitting in the editing room with Richard Francis Bruce, my brilliant editor, and we're wrestling with this sequence because we're going off the script and saying, how are we going to make this play in the edit the way it is in the script, Because we are woefully lacking footage of Andy and the lovers. And then one morning, as I was in the shower, actually, which is, I find where I get my best ideas, it suddenly came clear to me, and I went into the editing room that day, and I said to Richard, I got it. Okay, well, let's just turn the whole thing into a courtroom scene and use what footage of the lovers we have as we sprinkle it throughout, really as just flashback material. So the entire credit sequence is couched in terms of a courtroom. And we tore the sequence apart and put it back together in the editing room. And yay, lo and behold, it actually worked. We were very happy about that because it saved us from actually having to go back and shoot anything additional with the lovers. And it really just goes to show that the old saying, sometimes you can save it in the editing room, is actually true. Sometimes when you're forced to make compromises, you can become very inventive, it seems to me. And maybe you can wind up with solutions that are indeed more pleasing than what you had planned. I know that those happy accidents come along, and I'm very grateful for them. The happy accident factor